Alright, today we're going to be talking about imperialism. Imperialism is very similar to colonization, it's just a lot more expansive. So we had Europeans during the modern era, before 1750, that conquered the Americas and maybe a little bit of ports around the world, but they're going to extend their control into the rest of the world. And imperialism is also often relative to the exploitation of the peoples that they're conquering. So here we can kind of see the Americans and Europeans who are exploiting those people that they conquered during imperialism. Now, imperialism is creating vast empires by controlling large portions of the world. Here you see this cartoon of England. He's reaching out his arms to grab more pieces of land. There's a couple of reasons to do this. One, to get resources and cheap raw materials, especially after industrialization. They needed those materials to make manufactured goods. But you also want to sell those goods, so they want to have places that they can sell those goods and make money off of as well. Now, the Europeans came up with several justifications, reasons why it was okay to go take over these people, because they did take them over and sort of took advantage of them. But their justifications, the first one is social Darwinism. And this plays off of Darwin's idea of evolution, and that's in nature, the fittest animals survive. And the Europeans believed that they were the fittest, so they should be the ones that are controlling them. They also believed that they were the most highly evolved. And here you can kind of see this in these pictures comparing a Caucasian, an African, and a monkey, saying that the Caucasian is more evolved as a species. You also have ethnocentrism. Europeans thought their culture was better. And because they thought their culture was better, something develops called the white man's burden. And this was actually, the White Man's Burden was a poem written by a guy named Rudyard Kipling. But it was the idea that Europeans had an obligation to go civilize the rest of the world. Since they are more advanced, since their culture is better, they need to go spread and help out everybody else. They also had a lot of nationalism. They were prideful in their country, and they were competitive. So they wanted, every person wanted their country to be the strongest. Now, there are several different types of imperialism. The first one we've kind of already talked about is a colony. Now, a colony is any territory that's governed by a foreign power. Now, there are three different types of colonies. The first one is indirect controlled colony, or indirectly controlled colony. Now, this is where they use locals to help them rule. So, actual natives are going to be part of the population, but also part of the government as well. And this is because there's locals ruling, they're often going to allow some local customs and laws. And this would help them after they achieve independence because they're going to have experience in ruling. There's also direct control. This is where foreign officials do not let locals help them rule at all. They only send out foreign officials into their colonies, and those foreign officials rule. So this would only allow European laws. And it made it very hard for these countries after they achieved independence, or these colonies after they achieved independence and became a country, to rule because they had no experience. The locals didn't have any experience ruling. And then finally you have a settler colony, and this is where basically the locals are pushed out of the territory. And Europeans come in, migrate to this place to live there as a permanent settlement, rather than just being there for long enough to collect resources. And here you kind of see these arrows representing all the European migrations to these settler colonies. Other than the colony, there are three other types of imperialism. One of them is a protectorate. Now, this is when a territory has a local government, but that local government, even though it controls itself independently, it has its sovereignty, that government is basically told what to do by a stronger outside power. A sphere of influence is when the country has its own government, they are in control, but an outside power who's stronger will basically come in there and say, you can only trade with us. So they're kind of related, protectorate and sphere. All of these are actually somewhat related, just slightly different. So they're just saying, you can only trade with us, but they don't really control other parts of their country, whereas a protectorate, the outside power basically tell them anything. And then economic imperialism is basically when a weak nation is controlled because they are dependent on a stronger country for trade. So the stronger country says, well, if you don't do this, then we're not going to trade with you and you're going to be broke. So Europeans actually started conquering most of the world. Now, in the Americas, those colonies had achieved independence by this time through various revolutions. And so Europeans need to get resources elsewhere, so they go conquer Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and into the Pacific Islands. But they're also going to control a lot of other parts of the world. Latin America is still controlled by Europeans. China and the Ottoman Empire pretty much still controlled by Europeans.